Okay, Toby. So last time we talked, we were doing the FODMAP diet. It seems like you're still doing good with the FODMAP diet. That was
Yes.
your brain fog symptoms. Um, so fill me in with that. I know I had you fill out this form, and it says, "What since your last form, which parts of your treatment protocol have you followed?" Let me share that screen with you.
Okay.
So it said low FODMAP diet, take recommended supplements, testing on brain supplements, lifestyle modification. So last time we talked about was like stay on the FODMAP diet, see if you go to ketosis, maybe consider doing some intermittent fasting to
Yeah.
get some autophagy going and see if you can like manage your workload to not exceed
Yeah.
your endurance issues, to not get limbic. And that was the main goal. So you said since your last appointment, you followed all of those. So let's talk about that first. So is the FODMAP diet's like working for you, right?
Yeah. It seems to be working really good, which is nice because I mean, I've done it in the past and it didn't always work. And something's working right because my digestion seems pretty good overall, like pretty awesome.
Okay. So if we look at your um, initial chief complaints, stomach discomfort, burning, intense pain,
Mhm.
bloating, fasting burps, brain bloating, like these first three symptoms are
For sure.
FODMAP diet, yeah?
Yeah. Mhm.
And if you have you slipped, have you like tried to eat anything with fiber or sugars? You notice it too?
A little bit, and certain foods for sure will mess me up. I had pumpkin seeds. Those sometimes can mess with me. It's just certain things. Yeah, I haven't gone off a ton or done it super. I mean, it just feels so good that I don't really want to go off. But
Yeah, once
yeah,
it works for you, it's hard to switch.
yeah.
Is there a relationship between your brain fog and your gut symptoms, or do you, or not, or is it
I think
independent?
I think sometimes, yeah, but
Sometimes,
sometimes, yeah, I think it also can be related to maybe allergies,
right?
like outdoor allergies. And then also it kind of seems like when I was getting that limbic too, it's almost like three different times. And the third would be sometimes when I get limbic, I would
Yeah,
get brain fog too.
like limbic meaning like you really just fatigued your brain, you just worked way too long, too much frontal lobe stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, so there's still some degree of like the whole limbic thing happening at times, right? Occasionally,
Yeah. And it's really way milder than last year. But it still happens a little bit. Yeah.
yeah. So listen, the big concern is like you have a little bit since you played so many football injuries and you had so many concussions that you might have some brewing traumatic, like some post-traumatic encephalopathy, right? And that can progress down the road and get really ugly over time. So the key thing is like to dampen neuroinflammation and kind of fix those things now. But really, when we look at your symptoms, like most of your symptoms were frontal lobe. So if we
Yeah.
look at like your brain region localization form, I was looking at the most updated one here. These are the
Mhm.
main symptoms that we were concerned with. And then I went and got the um, original ones. So let me see here. Yeah. So these are the original ones. So we can take a look here, kind of compare them. Let me get them the same size. Okay. So if we look at the frontal lobe symptoms, um, so 2022, maybe a little bit, let's see, 12, 13, like 13 months ago, something like around there. Okay.
Yeah.
So 13, yeah. Um, like planning executive functions, those are the fours and threes are the ones that really matter to us. Difficulty restraining controlling impulses and desires, difficulty initiating tasks, staying focused. These are threes 75% of the time. And then
Yeah.
when you look at your new ones, like they're way better.
Yeah.
Even have any threes or fours,
Yeah.
mostly twos and threes. So you're on your way. Like
Yeah.
your frontal is definitely working and is seems to be recovering better. Let's look at the original one again. See, I don't think there's any other significant sections. It was just that frontal lobe.
Yeah. I don't think so either.
And that's like when you know it's a brain injury because it's just that one targeted area of the brain. Like when people have overall brain inflammation, they have symptoms everywhere. But
Mm.
it's just that one area. So, and then if we look at your most updated one, like you don't really have symptoms anywhere else. Okay. So what when we look at the when we look at the frontal lobe related issues, meaning like we could just call it being limbic, like your anxiety and your like temper being changed a little bit.
Yeah.
What have you noticed made the biggest difference with that? Is it
I think that one of the biggest differences is not multitasking and not trying to do just too much frontal lobe activity and at the same time, or even just throughout the day.
yeah,
And giving breaks and spacing it. That definitely just seems to be the biggest impact.
Okay, good. And when you do get limbic, you take breaks, you're able to recover quickly, or what happens?
Yeah, I just usually will just like I was just trying to work on the computer the other night and when we were watching TV and that was just like too much. So I just like close the computer and stop working and just yeah, and then it's fine. It's just too much stuff, sometimes too much noise, stimulation, and it just then I get stressed.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. It's like one of the most important things is you start to make that connection with like when you're getting fatigued, and then you know how to like take
Yeah.
it off. And then if you end up pushing it, you kind of really have to see how you're doing with your symptoms. Okay, so you've been you put also here on here like fasting. I'm concerned and nervous about managing blood sugar and feeling worse with fasting. So I haven't done it yet. Okay, that's okay. You don't have to do it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to. Timing wise, it was really a tough with the newborn and everything.
Newborn.
So,
Totally,
and
totally.
I think maybe if I just plan to do it maybe later this year or something, and
Yeah,
still, yeah,
whatever you want. I mean, we're just like I said with you, like the biggest concern in your after like doing a thorough workup on you, the biggest concern for you is like hypertension, where you can start to have vascular injury, especially over time. I mean, you're young, you're you know what you're 30, 29.
29, yeah,
So, but like 40, 10 years of hypertension can start to damage your blood vessels, cause some plaquing. We don't want you to be the 50-year-old that all of a sudden has a coronary event because they have high pressure for 20 years or 10 years and did a lot of damage. So we want to see that as being controlled at some point, and then also the so many head injuries you had playing football. We just want to make sure that your frontal lobe recovers. And then usually, you went through a lot of functional neurology stuff and did a lot of rehab, and you went to practitioners, but it just seemed like everyone was just fatiguing you and like overstimulating you. But when you really look at where the injury was, it's really your frontal lobe, and all the work you're doing running your business is all executive function. It was
yeah,
just exceeding its rate. So that's doing pretty good. Don't worry about the coronary calcium score. Like it's still a big stress. Like it's just going to be your baseline most likely. Anyways, you're
yeah,
at age 30, you're probably going to have a zero score, but it's just nice to have.
totally, yeah,
See where you're at. Have you been able to check your blood pressure recently?
yeah.
What's your
It's like pretty consistently 130 over 85.
okay? So that's okay. That's right on the borderline, like systolic. Um, I think it's going to continue to improve over time. But but we'll see. Just keep measuring it.
I will.
Yeah. Okay. What are your okay? So do you have any new persistent symptoms? Some new anxiety, intrusive thoughts, worry, eczema. Okay. When you say new anxiety, intrusive thoughts, is it
It's different, yeah. So I've had it seems just like symptoms of like those symptoms, low serotonin kind of stuff in the past, and they came up again recently, and I didn't know if it was just from the stress of having a newborn, that kind of thing.
yeah.
But they're definitely it's different than like the limbic and that kind of stress. It's definitely intrusive thoughts where like they just won't kind of stop and go away. And so I started like some 5-HTP and a
Mm.
couple other things, and that seems to be helping. There's it slowly, but it seems to be.
Okay. So like the classical symptoms for sometimes you just sometimes support your neurotransmitter pathways when you have like a new stressor and new change in brain chemistry. Obviously, having a new member of your family and being in charge of a newborn is a lot, but doesn't mean you can't support your brain. Typically, with like serotonin patterns, people that really have low serotonin will typically have symptoms like they don't really the things they used to that bring them joy don't really bring them joy. Things that used to make them happy don't make them happy. People that have low dopamine have hard initiation and follow through, and motivation.
Yeah, I don't really have that as much. It's more just the intrusive thoughts and worry.
Yeah.
Is that more GABA
Well,
or
yeah, so you could take so the other thing to consider is GABA support, but GABA support like you'd want to only take it when you're in this state because if you're working all day and you start taking GABA support, your frontal lobe function can go
okay?
down. It's gonna like inhibit you. It's gonna make you sleepy and tired. You could. Do you think the 5-HTP is working for you,
I
or
think so. I mean, does that usually take a few weeks to kind of kick in?
no? Like neurotransmitter support for the brain works immediately when it's the
I
right
mean,
one.
it did work immediately. It's just not. Maybe I need to take more. I don't know. I'm taking 200 milligrams.
Yeah, you can experiment with it, see how it goes. You can also try anti-anxiety stuff, like when you have it. Yeah, um, valerian root, passion flower, there's a really great product I like with Apex called Neuracera. It's a new product they have. It's like a emulsified valerian root. Like it works really, really quickly. Um, I'll send you the name of it if you want to try it. That one that works really well.
Is that okay to take every day?
Yeah, you can take it every day. The point is, the problem with the neurotransmitter support is when you start taking like the nutraceuticals every day, your brain starts to adapt, and they over like a couple months or a few weeks, they're not as effective.
Okay.
But hopefully, this is just like some recent new dad stress that you just need to kind of modulate with. But you
Yeah,
can,
that's what I was hoping too.
yeah,
I mean, the only other thing I know it's weird, but I've noticed in the past is when I've had a ton of bone broth,
yeah,
and I don't know what it is, if it's because I don't know, but I looked it up online, and apparently some other people had the same thing where they just consume a bunch of it and then they get that type of symptoms. And I've actually done it a few different times and had the same thing happen. So I had been drinking it, so I cut that out too, just in case. I know it's really weird, but
yeah. I mean, I don't doubt that it happens to some people. I don't know what the exact mechanism is, but
yeah,
I mean, the
you know,
best
they
thing.
had a few explanations, but
Yeah.
uh,
It's all theoretical though, but most important thing is trial and error for you. If you
yeah,
makes a difference for you.
yeah,
Because no one like might ever really have the right theory. They're just guessing.
yeah.
But if it's
Hmm.
good for you, then it is. Okay. And then the eczema is, I mean, eczema can be triggered just by your anxiety. Uh,
Right.
that's a main trigger. For a lot of times it's food related, but your food related issues aren't there because your FODMAP diet's controlling your gut symptoms and your gut symptoms are improving. So it's probably just stress. The most common cause of eczema to be like food, environmental, or like stress. So
Hmm.
maybe it's just stress related, I would guess. What do you think?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I've had it off and on for years.
Yeah.
I had it when I was a kid too. I when I stopped gluten like
Right
six
away.
6 years ago, it helped, and then now and I'm not eating gluten now, so I don't know.
Hmm. Do you think the bone broth was contributing? I mean, are you still
I mean,
taking?
I'll get it if I stop the hydrocortisone. It comes right back.
Okay. So how long have you been on hydrocortisone now?
Um, it's been like 2 to 3 weeks, probably.
2 to 3 weeks. Okay. Do you think the hydrocortisone is contributing to some of your anxiety?
No, I think I was having anxiety before that. Pretty sure. Yeah, I was.
Okay. Well, again, the thing with hydrocortisone is, um, it can change your microbiome. It causes leaky gut. It can make like all your symptoms of SIBO worse over time. You're just taking a topical one on your
Yeah,
skin.
yeah.
It's not like as significant as an oral one for those adverse effects, but just be careful. And then, you know, you might want to talk to like, do you have a source of reducing your anxiety and stress other than supplements?
Well, I mean, I don't feel that stressed actually. I mean, I was stressed.
Anxiety.
Yeah, it's more just like the thoughts and
Yeah.
like it doesn't, I've had like just stressed out experiences. I mean, the limbic is more like a typical stress pattern where I just get like really worked up, but I don't really feel like that right now. So,
Yeah. Let's come back to this one. Okay. Next step in treatment plan. I've been on a low FODMAP since my last appointment. I've been feeling pretty good with digestion now. I have less bloating, burping discomfort. Should I continue? Yes. You definitely need to continue.
okay. I guess my question was just indefinitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Indefinitely. Let's just listen to your body. Every now and then you could introduce some foods, and then if you don't feel good, then
Yeah.
don't take it.
Yeah.
Um, if it's for example a brain gut access mechanism, as your frontal lobe continues to improve, it's not being fatigued all day and it's branching and making mitochondria. Maybe a year from now, like your brain gut access function is so much better. You have better intestinal motility and valve contraction, all that. But until then, you don't want to sabotage it, right?
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
And eczema, we'll just hold off on that for a sec. Anxiety,
Yeah, this is all the stuff we already went over pretty much.
yeah. Sleep. You still wake up tired of 9 to 10 hours in bed.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a sleep study?
what do you mean?
Just
No,
if
no.
that,
No.
no, so you don't feel recovered after you wake up.
It's not bad, but it's enough that it's noticeable. Like it's just some sluggishness and still kind of feel tired.
Okay. All right. So my brain seems to have been pretty good despite having a newborn, sleep interpretation, additional stress, some brain fog, feeling overwhelmed stress, stability. It's been mild symptoms, so much the most getting past. Okay.
Oh, that was the other thing. Yeah, I did run out of the stop the neuroflam, adaptocrin, clearvite, and biomin.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about last time was just experimenting with seeing what kind of impact they're having on you and then stopping to see if you notice any difference. But it seems like you don't really need them, right?
Well, I think maybe the neuroflam and adaptocrin may have just been helpful for like the stress response, possibly.
Yeah. I would definitely like I can tell you I take so many anti-inflammatory brain supplements with no real symptoms just because I just want my brain to be really protected for the rest of my life. So I
Yeah,
take stuff and it's what it's working out. Like I'm going to be 50 in a few months. So like I think I'm doing okay. My brain function is like better than it was when I was 20. So
oh really?
it depends on how like is value. Do you want to take it? Do you not want to take it? Like but it's not a bad idea to take flavonoids. They're very
Yeah,
protective. And if you do
yeah,
have this chronic traumatic encephalopathy from TBIs, so it's a good idea to stay on stuff like any kind of flavonoid. It doesn't have to be Neuroflam, but green tea, resveratrol,
yeah,
quercetin, just having a cocktail of those ongoing. I think that's
yeah.
good. Okay. So you decide what's best for you as far as your supplements go with brain, but if your key thing is to look at your brain fog issues, it seems like most of your brain fog issues were either related to your gut or when your brain fatigue, like when you were limbic, right? Not so much
Yeah.
this ongoing neuroinflammatory pattern. And then environmental allergens can trigger it. So if you do have
Mhm.
environmental allergens trigger, you definitely want to make sure you're taking some, because it may help
Yeah,
you faster. I'm not sure if it's going to get rid of all the symptoms at all, but it's still a good idea. Okay.
yeah,
So plan for the next few months. Okay. So let's talk about that, but let's go over your GI panel too. So this
yeah,
one, okay. So you're like, I don't know if you're familiar with how to interpret this, but like the first page of these GI reports, what they do is they just go over your findings. So it summarizes. So you have maldigestion score of 1, which is um, really good. So 10 is the worst. So 7 to 10 red means like you have a lot of problems. Okay. And then green means like you really don't have any problems. And 4
okay.
is moderate. So they looked at your ability to digest, your inflammatory markers, your balance between good and bad bacteria, and then some things related to metabolic imbalances, and then patterns for infection. And your scores overall are pretty good, but let's go over them one by one. So if we go over here, we can see like um, this is your inflammatory versus immune suppression score. Just look at your dysbiosis score, everything. Like you're in the green. Like this is really
Okay.
like, you don't see this all the time, but this is if I had this, I'd be very happy.
Yeah.
Like you're doing pretty good here. So
Okay.
that's working great for you. Here where you see like the dysbiotic score, ideally you could be here in the green more, but like still this isn't very bad.
Okay.
You could shift a little bit to the left very quickly, but I'm not too worried about this.
Okay.
So then here on the next few pages, they're just breaking down your digestive markers, and they're all in the green. So pancreas, this is like looking how you're digesting proteins and fats,
Hmm.
breaking down triglycerides and fats and everything pretty well here. Then these are markers for inflammation in your gut if you have any inflammatory responses, and they're all in the green. So it means you don't have any inflammatory reactions taking place.
Hmm.
Short chain fatty acids are a little bit low. Um, and this can happen on a FODMAP diet because there's fiber restriction.
Yeah.
You're still taking that product um, and terabyte.
I am. Yeah.
You might want to increase your dose. How much are you taking?
I don't remember what I was taking when I did this test. um,
So with terabyte, I would say taking like 4 capsules twice a day would be a good idea.
okay.
If that's what you were taking before, you may want to take an extra couple. So the problem is these like when you're FODMAP, you're reducing fiber as part of the FODMAP diet,
Hmm.
and fiber is needed to help make bacteria. So if you increase your short chain fatty acids, so fiber converts to short chain fatty acids, and short chain fatty acids then are fuel to make beneficial bacteria. Like your score with dysbiosis may shift greater to the green just by adding some more short chain fatty acids. So short chain acids come from fiber, they become fuel for your good bacteria to develop. So one of the reasons why you may have dysbiosis is really because you just don't have enough short chain fatty acids, which is just common when you're on a FODMAP diet.
Okay. Yeah.
So definitely increase your butyrate. The short chain fatty, the product called enterovite from Apex is acetate, propionate, and butyrate, all three of them.
Okay.
So your lowest one is butyrate, and its highest thing in the product is the butyrate. So that would be the key thing there.
Yeah.
Beta glucuronidase is a marker that showed up. Beta glucuronidase is like this enzyme in bacteria that can sabotage how you eliminate hormones. That's like one of the things they've learned about it. Your levels are high, and I think if you start to increasing your short chain fatty acids and improving your healthy bacteria, this will go back down. You don't really need to do anything for this.
Okay.
We'll take something like calcium deglucanate, which is like a supplement to kind of compensate for this, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference, and it's expensive. Okay. And I think I think it's a waste of time, to be honest with
you. That is, could that be high from taking reishi, or is that? I know it just looks like a similar word to the beta glucan.
And that's totally different.
Okay.
Yeah. That's It's like that's a storage, and this is an enzyme.
Okay.
And then here they look at your commensal bacteria, and you just kind of look at the average. You're pretty good. Like everyone's going to have a little bit off on some of the scales to the percentile, but overall, it's not too bad.
Okay.
And if anything, if you do have any kind of slight dysbiosis, it's just probably because you don't have enough short chain fatty acids being on FODMAP.
Right.
Okay. And then here they did a culture to see if you have any kind of pathogenic growth. And you had just a couple slight pathogenic bacteria growth. So these are bacteria that cause inflammation, but your intestinal inflammatory marker is not that bad. Yeah. And they ended up culturing these at the end of the report if you wanted to do something for them, but I don't think you really need to.
Okay.
In this section of the report, they just did a parasitology test, checked for roundworms, tapeworms, flatworms, different protozoas, and they didn't find any type of parasite. Okay. And then they do an additional testing with parasites with a DNA test that's way more sensitive for the most common pathogens.
Okay.
And there's nothing detected. So you don't have any parasitic infections in your gut at all. Fecal occult blood's checked, just a screen for things like colon cancer. Everything looks good there. Your color consistency of your stool is healthy. And here you had some of this bacteria abnormality that was a little bit off here. So that's what they were checking to see if you have any kind of reactions or sensitivities to that. Okay. I'm sorry, if here. They found a couple of prescription antibiotics could help get rid of that. They didn't find these berberine, oregano, you've they only checked a few of them to see if they have any real effects. But to go ahead and take an antibiotic just for that, that's I think way too much. Okay. Anytime you take antibiotics, you get a little bit of more persistent bacterial species. You start to transfer more antioxidant resistant genes. I wouldn't do anything.
Okay.
For that, there's lots of different nutraceuticals. GI Synergy. I don't know if you've ever taken that. It's like a packet of all the different natural antibacterial, antiparasitic agents. If you really wanted to do something for that, you can. I don't really know if you need to go there. If you don't have any ongoing bloating, distension, or GI symptoms, and you control everything else with FODMAP, I think if you just add increase your short chain fatty acids to be consistent with that, I think it may get rid of all this.
Okay.
Any questions on your GI panel?
In terms of the short chain fatty acids, are there some like natural sources of fiber for food that are more low FODMAP that would be good?
Not really.
Okay.
Once you go on FODMAP, technically anything that's fiber that you can tolerate with the FODMAP diet has some potential to make short chain fatty acids.
Yeah. Anything that's fiber, okay.
Any of the permitted FODMAP vegetables could be helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I've been going pretty low on some of those just because it makes me feel better.
Yeah, I would stick with whatever's working for you. Just add some of those in.
Okay.
Okay. So what do we do from here? Really, the next step is, let me ask you a question. You're okay staying on FODMAP for a while, right?
Yeah.
I would I would take this because we had to take some nutraceuticals for FODMAP and some for brain inflammation. And the brain inflammation, if you just want to stick on things like flavonoids like Neuroflam and adaptogens, that's great. I kind of think you figured this pretty much out, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I think you kind of
Okay.
figured out your recovery phase, like what's going to help you recover
Mhm.
with your protocol. Let me just make sure here. This was our initial goals. Identify strategies such as not missing meals, ketosis, exercise in the afternoon, taking breaks from the work in order to not develop limbic patterns. So you figured that out. You've
Mhm.
That was our initial goal. Number two, associate between limbic activity and persistent gastrointestinal symptoms. Specifically, want to see if there's any resolution of GI symptoms as limbic patterns are no longer expressed. So we're not saying your limbic system being like when you get limbic really causing your gut issues. It just seems to be like the whole small intestinal bacterial overgrowth SIBO pattern, and it could just be this ongoing brain gut axis issue. Okay, we know some of your brain fog happens when you have GI issues. Some of your brain fog happens when you get exposed to environmental allergens, and some of it happens when you fatigue your brain. Right?
Yeah.
You can kind of control those the best you can with that. Your fatigue, how's your fatigue?
Oh, it's fine.
It's fine. So
Yeah.
most of your fatigue was probably just from fatiguing your brain, I would guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cold hands and feet. Hours.
I think that's just the Raynaud's phenomenon thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's,
The overall decision. That's when you became limbic, right?
yeah.
Mm, okay. So then once with ketogenic adaptation take place, so then we're really at the point of just like get some autophagy going. Like we're looking at
Yeah.
your pattern of CTE and a brain gut axis disorder, your brain region localization form symptoms like way better. Every time you've done it, actually, they've become better.
Yeah.
So I think you're on your way, and I think you're rehabilitating your brain every day with just your activities you are, as long as you don't fatigue them.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things to consider is to do a sleep study. If you're like you're waking up and you're still not, if you're if you're waking up and not feeling rested after 8, 9 hours of sleep, you could be having some sleep apnea. So you're in Las Vegas, right?
Hmm.
So if you just Google like sleep study,
Yeah.
you can just go into one of these places and they'll do a sleep study. All you have to tell them is you sleep for 9 hours and you still feel really tired. That's like the chief complaint. People have sleep apnea. So let's just put some probes on you, record you one night, see how you're sleeping if you get into deep sleep and if you're getting to sleep apnea. And if you do have it, they might put you on the CPAP. But it could be a game changer if you actually have hypoxia at nighttime and you start breathing oxygen. It can definitely help your brain endurance, your brain recovery. It can help you get there much faster. So it's definitely a red flag when you hear 9 hours sleep and don't feel recovered.
Yeah.
Have some of that. Do you have a pulse ox at home?
Yeah.
Because they want to have like medicine, just stick your finger in it and see what you are at nighttime.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like if you're down to like 91%, 90%, you definitely might be hypoxic at night. Because you usually want to be, above 96, preferably 98 to 100%. But when you're sleeping, it's going to go down a little bit. So, but in any case, I would say don't overlook possibly man sleep apnea. And if you're hypoxic like 8, 9 hours a day, and you start getting oxygen to your brain, it may really make a big impact for your recovery. It's
Right.
almost like good news if you need a sleep if you need a CPAP because it can make a big change for you. It's also bad news because now you got to wear this device and used to it and
Yeah.
see if it actually does anything for you.
Yeah.
But it's don't ignore it. Don't
Okay.
and also if you people have sleep apnea and hypoxia, there's relationships to hypertension. So
Hmm.
you may even have some better changes. You may see some improvements in your blood pressure if you actually are having sleep apnea and are hypoxic and you start to oxygenate and breathe throughout the night. So that could be something to consider. Okay. Um, Hydrocortisone is a big issue. If you're going to be on a are you taking the repair bite? It's part of the SIBO protocol.
Yeah, but I mean, I just recently ran out.
I would definitely stay on all your SIBO supplements.
Okay, stay on all those.
Yeah, Repairvite especially, be and Enterovite especially. Repairvite because you're in cortisone now for 2 to 3 weeks because of your eczema flare up with your recent anxiety and symptoms and so forth, and that's going to just wipe out your gut.
Okay.
And then the short chain fatty acids for sure we need you to take. That'll help you with your slight dysbiosis and just your levels being low, being on a FODMAP diet. But those two will be important, and then the adaptogens you're taking. Outside of that, I really think you're on the right track.
Okay.
I don't know what I would dramatically change with your protocol. I think you just need time. I think you
Yeah.
just need like time. If you can eventually get into fasting later this year, that would be great. So I would say let's talk. The next time we should talk is once you've had a chance to. So stay on FODMAP, stay on the adaptogen or Flem, whatever thing you think is helping your brain fog. Still really pay attention to when you're fatiguing throughout the day and get before you get limbic. Just seem to master all of that. And then get the sleep study done. Send me an email when you get your sleep study done. If you need a CPAP, get a CPAP, and then see if that helps your recovery and your energy throughout the day. And then the next step would be to do some fasting, where you go 1 day, eventually go into 3 days.
Okay.
Then I would say if you can do that, you think you can do that like in the next 6 months or something like that, or
Yeah, I think so.
okay. So once you've gone through like a round of that, then let's connect again. The thing you need to remember when you go through your intermittent fasting is definitely make sure you take salt and water.
Yeah, I have all the notes. I think you told me all those things last time, so I have all that.
Just make sure your minerals are okay, make sure you're hydrated.
Yeah.
And,
How many times did you say you wanted me to do it before, or I should do before we meet again? Like the fasting.
once or twice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So typically, let me tell you what typically happens. People that have like CTE, they'll do it one time and they go, I'm not really sure if it helped, but I think it might have. Let's say 3 day fast. Your second time, say the same thing. They do it like a third time, they go, I think it's making a difference.
Hmm.
So it'll be something you might have to do like a dozen times.
Okay.
12 to 20 times and the next, let's say next 2 years or something. And then once you like do it once, like, oh, I can do that. And then you
Yeah.
just go, okay, I'll do it at the end of each month. And you just do that like for a few months. And then you take a look back from when you first were doing it and see if you had some bigger changes in your endurance and your, cognitive functions and, all that stuff here that are frontal lobe for you. We're
Yeah.
going to drive on it. Okay.
Cool.
So I'll put it in your hands. You just connect with us. Once you've had a chance to do that, obviously, if you have any questions, just email me and then
Yeah.
let me know about the sleep study sooner as soon as you do it.
Okay. So definitely you think I should do that. Are there any other symptoms of it's just for sleep apnea, and
Yeah.
is there anything else I would notice from that, or should I just do the study, you think?
Oh, you should just definitely do this.
Do
If
Okay.
you're sleeping 9 hours and not feeling recovered,
Yeah.
you should do this.
Well, I didn't know if it's like, because I definitely have outdoor allergies too, and I mean, I think it might be correlated with those.
But they might be impacting your oxygenation too.
Right. Right.
You can mucus inflammation. You can get overactive gag
Yeah.
response. All those things
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Um, for the eczema, if I stop the hydrocortisone, do you have any other recommendations for that? I mean, if it's just caused by stress, then that would just be stress reduction.
Yeah, typically, like you try natural topical stuff, they don't really work.
It doesn't. I tried all of them on Amazon. Is there,
Or
what about any,
especially with stress induced,
yeah, okay,
you can experiment. Like there's lots of things you can get at Whole Foods, natural anti-inflammatory creams and all that.
yeah. What about any supplements internally that would help?
The most powerful one is typically adaptogens, and
Okay.
you're taking adaptogens.
Yeah.
And then I think the short chain fatty acids can have a huge impact on that too, because
Okay.
they really impact your microbiome and your immune system. A lot of times when someone has eczema, we're going like, what's happening with microbiome? Like we'll see like, oh my goodness, they have a severe milk allergy or they have severe leaky gut. And then we'll like work on the microbiome. So the main weakness we say with your gut is really just not having enough of these short chain fatty acids.
Right. Right.
So really bumping those up, taking the adaptogens, maybe what it would make the biggest difference, instead of just randomly trying 100 supplements or something.
Yeah.
And if you
Okay.
do, like, honestly, it's going to be trial and error. So if you
Yeah.
try something, just go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. No, that sounds good.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
So with Toby, we can see he's slowly making some progression. This is ideal. I think the biggest thing was to really identify that, his symptoms were really related to a specific frontal lobe injury. And he's actually doing frontal lobe activities with his work every day with executive functions, planning, organizing, um, staying motivated, finishing tasks, initiating tasks. He's just doing too much of them. So now that he's been able to reduce his ability to exceed that, reduce his exceeding his metabolic rate and having a chance to recover, he seems to be doing really well. His biggest issue is potentially developing chronic traumatic encephalopathy. So we really want him to get into that autophagy clearance pathways with fasting. He's probably going to need to do this repeated 2 to 3 day fasting, 10, 15, 20 times to really get rid of some of that debris. And what we really hope to see is, or we're looking for to see long term, is this frontal lobe symptoms on that brain region localization form all normalize. And then if he still has any persistent gastrointestinal symptoms, there's a strong possibility that his brain gut axis disorder is causing his chronic small intestinal bacterial issue. Until then, you really should just stay on the FODMAP diet and ultimately just listen to his body. So every time he eats foods outside of the FODMAP diet, he gets bloating, distension. Just being on it to completely resolve his symptoms. Now, one of the interesting things about his GI panel was you can really see those short chain fatty acids drop when he's been eating a FODMAP diet. So it's very important to use things like butyrate and short chain fatty acid supplements anytime someone's on following those dietary guidelines of FODMAP, because just not getting enough precursor fiber sources to really help make short chain fatty acids. And once their short chain fatty acid levels drop, then they can't populate their microbiome. They get down that negative cascade as well. His eczema, more than likely just having a new baby could be causing a little bit of stress with him. He's on cortisone. That's something we'd like to hear. But, taking some adaptogens, he's taking high amounts of glutamine, using an intestinal repair product, and taking some short chain fatty acids that may help him, and hopefully that can make a difference for him. So that's the plan, and we'll see how it goes from there.